Welcome everyone. This is Jody Soper, independent market partner and founder with Monat Global, and we're here today to kick off July and get into referral mastery with an amazing guest speaker we have today, Tony Rubleski. And just to share you a quick snapshot, a nickel tour, if you will, of Tony. He is currently the president of Mind Capture Group. His message is designed to help people capture more minds and profit. He is an in-demand teacher and speaker who's given hundreds of presentations the past decade, a strategic business coach and global event promoter with over 20 plus years of experience in personal development industry. He's celebrating his fourth book release in the series titled Mind Capture, Leadership Lessons from 10 Trailblazers Who Beat the Odds and Influenced Millions. And I just read his book, which prompted me to say, hey, can we get together and chat? Because I found I learned a little bit from him, and we wanted just to dig in and let him share some little nuggets with all of you. So thank you so much for being here, Tony.
Awesome. Well, Jody, thank you for the invitation. And for those listening that could be live on the call or hearing the recording, a couple ground rules. First and foremost, I want to thank you for your time. Attention, or what I teach, mind capture, Jody, is at a premium. So here's the goal. Over the next 30, 35 minutes, I want you to imagine that we're going to go through this topic called referral mastery. Hugely in demand. I know a lot of you, I've talked with Jody and Tony, or your other field leaders out there, that have said, hey, our folks are maybe new to direct selling, they're new to Monat. They really want to know about how do you get referral business, because many of them are saying, hey, we need to know this stuff. So I want you to also think, as you spend some time with us today on this call, this teaching, I'm going to give you some referral ideas, the how-to, but also the why-to behind it. Why are you going to do some of these strategies? And then also specific ways that you can implement the how-to when we're done. And the goal at the end of this is, when you're listening, again, if you don't have a pen and paper, I'm going to recommend you sit down in a quiet place if you can, or if you're at a Starbucks hearing this, grab a pen and paper and write down some notes, similar to like a buffet. I wanted to present ideas and strategies that work today, but like a buffet, you take one or two ideas from this teaching today, this session, that you implement right away, okay? The other thing too, just an advanced training technique in teaching, is anytime people write down information, this will be true when you work with your team or your customers, when you have someone in the sales process writing information down, it anchors into them. They remember it better, they're more involved, and it helps everyone in the teachable moment or the sales transaction. So here we go. I'm going to start out with some sage advice to set the stage for today's call. You see a picture here, and again, if you're only hearing the audio, I'm going to narrate quickly the pictures as well for reinforcement. But there's a gentleman that looks like, you can't see him, he's knocking on a door, and it says door-to-door sales. I don't know about you, I did that for a long time. I know, Jody, you've been in selling for a long time too.
Yeah.
It's horrible. It's horrible. And I put a quote here below. It says, hand-to-hand cold calling combat is brutal and should be avoided if possible. Now, it doesn't mean we go out and meet people, we talk about what we do, because we're always going to be asked by people every day that we're alive, hey, what do you do? Or tell me more about yourself. So there's always those situations where we're going to be asked. The main thing, though, is cold calling, the old school way of selling, is dead. There is a much easier way. That's why we're on this call today. Now, I want to talk heavily, as advertised, about a better way to build any business, and particularly today your Monat business, by focusing on one key area I'm often brought in all over the world to teach, called referral marketing. Quick reminder. Again, we did some homework on this. We got some great feedback from Facebook. Many of you said, hey, here are my concerns, here are my opportunities. But some of you have said to Jody and Tony in particular, hey, I'm not a salesperson, or you know what, I'm kind of new to selling. Rest assured of a couple things. We're all in selling. There's nothing wrong with it. What I really want to teach today during our time is a new approach to selling where it's more comfortable, it's easier, and it's a lot more natural versus the old cold calling model, which I mentioned a minute ago is just not working. So I have a bold statement here on the screen. I believe that every one of us, regardless of product, service, role in society, that we are all in sales. There's a quote here from the legendary late Zig Ziglar, the classic sales trainer. He said this, timid salespeople have skinny children. Now, I use a little humor, and if you haven't already kind of caught this, I like to train from a lighthearted perspective, but not lightheaded. So here's my interpretation of Zig and why I put it in our teaching today. There's nothing wrong with the selling profession. The challenge that I have to try to maybe win you over on during our time on this call and during this presentation is that you think you're not a salesperson. Everyone has selling in them. And this might be something that we teach on a future call, Jody and Tony.
Yeah.
But today I want to set the stage that there's nothing wrong with it. The challenge is most people don't study it, or they don't find out easier ways to meet people, aka introduce themselves. All right, so let's talk about the customer of today. I want to give you sort of 3 big picture observations regardless of product or service. But again, these are true of any product that's out there. Customers of today, number 1, want to be appreciated. You know, customer service is at an all-time low, and I don't like to go negative. To me, that's easy for people to do. I try to look at everything very much on the optimistic, or how do we solve a problem perspective. But when you appreciate your customers, I'll show you some ways a little bit during the training. They love you. They talk about you. When they're talking about you in a positive fashion, they're going to be referring to you. And here's the other advantage. Please write this one down if you haven't been taking notes. They're going to be referring people to you in repeat business ordering. That's a wonderful thing about direct selling that many of you are starting to experience, or if you're a veteran listening in, is the better the follow-up, the more they think of you, the more product that they need because you're serving them. Number 2, great customer service is hard to find. Anytime we find it, we rave about it. Unfortunately, it's known in customer service circles, the data doesn't lie, that an average customer that's upset will tell 5 to 10 people. If they're happy, they might tell 1 to 3. So, you know, we still live in a very negative society where people kind of whine about bad things. However, as I just mentioned a minute ago, if you're doing the right things, they will talk about you, which will eventually unfold into some referral opportunities, or organically. Number 3, people are bored and they're easily distracted. What I've been teaching heavily for a decade now with my own company is how do you stand out in a crowded world. I call this mind capture. And the beautiful thing that you have in the Monat business, again, Jody and Tony did not ask me to say this. I'm not affiliated with Monat, so if you want to know full disclosure, good direct selling companies such as yours, they have what I call the attention factor to their advantage. It's a personal relationship one-on-one. Your leaders are training you. You have to have a great product. If Monat is growing, which it is, from what Jody mentioned to me, you had another great month of June, then what's happening is people are responding that your product is solid, and they're giving you their time and attention, okay? All right, let's shift into 3 central reasons why I believe everyone, especially on this call, should focus on referrals. Number 1, it saves you a ton of time. I did cold calling for many years. It saves a lot of time when you're working referrals because cold calling is the worst form of positioning. So please note this. Cold calling, you're starting at a 0 trust or a 0 know, like, and trust position. It takes a lot more follow-up. It's exhausting. People are much more skeptical. They don't want to be sold. If they're hearing about you via referral or word of mouth, or you can mention a name of a current customer that loves your product, they'll oftentimes at least look at your email, play your voicemail message, or maybe look at a text or a Facebook message. Whatever medium you follow up on a referral, that alone should really warrant us spending more time on referrals. Number 2, they're easy to get. I don't say that cocky or being too bold. If you know how is the secret. And that's what we're going to reveal on our time together. Again, buckle in, it's going to go fast. And number 3, prospects will pay for value. This, again, is an advantage to those of you that are Monat professionals on this call today, is you have a good product. Otherwise, it would not be growing like it is. I can just ascertain that from a distance and what little homework I've done researching some stuff on you and the company. When there's a value proposition with a good salesperson, aka you, that's well-trained, that has, you know, great follow-up skills, people don't mind paying a little bit more. On top of the fact you have a good product to boot, this bodes very, very well for you on the call. All right, let me give you some advanced, what I call Tony tips. Here's the first one. You see a picture there, but let me give you the explanation here, and I'll describe the picture. I have a quote here called Giver's Gain. It's from the gentleman in the picture with me. His name below is Ivan Meisner. He's the founder of a little networking group called B&I International. Arguably, I don't know, Jody, I think it's the largest business networking group on the planet now. They're in 100 and some odd countries. He actually trademarked that. So if Ivan sees this, that's Ivan and I a few years ago at a book event with my second book. I've endorsed my work, but he trademarks that term, giver's gain. So here's why I think it's a great advanced tip for our session. When you are giving great customer service, you're genuinely listening to your customers' needs, or if you're building your team and all these things apply with product or your recruiting efforts to build a team, those folks are going to want to give back to you because it's so hard to find that great follow-up and that service. So what I've been, my take on that term, those true words, is that this is a new age of marketing, and people are going to expect better service, and when you give it, they'll give back to you in the form of referrals. All right, advanced Tony tip number 2. If you look down below the photo here, it says habit force is powerful when applied. So here's my advice. Make referrals a daily part of your marketing efforts. And I underscore daily because most people, they kind of wing it. And I'm going to talk about this in a little bit later, why they do it and how we solve it. But I put an example here. It says Referral Masters in this picture. And if, again, you're not seeing this, just listen to the audio. There's a picture of me at my private event a few years ago in Las Vegas. I'm at a round table. I'm standing up. And I want to particularly point out a gentleman that's to the third to my right in there. He has a yellow shirt on. His name is Scott. Scott, gives me referrals often. And it's not a mystery to me because I've worked with him. I've known him for many, many years. But he also knows that I'll do a good job with my referrals as far as the follow-up, which we'll hit on as well. But he trusts me. I stay in touch with Scott. And I'm not afraid to ask him who he's networking with, that he might say, hey, Tony, here's some folks that are interested in what you do, but I've got to stick around and show up and not be afraid to ask, okay? So, advanced Tony tip number 3. Down below the photo, it says focus on vertical markets / industries to establish momentum and industry reputation. Let me give you a quick example, and then I'll narrate why I put this photo in with me and Michelle Comstock. That's her name in the picture. The example could be you have a chiropractor that loves Monat. They're into natural health. They like helping their clients. They're a gatekeeper or connector that refers products and services to their clients. What I would want to find out was with my chiropractor in this example that loves Monat is who can he or she take me to that's like them via referral, which we'll talk about how to get specifically those referrals in a moment. But here's the deal. Chiropractors oftentimes associate with other chiropractors. So this advanced Tony tip is more of a specific industry or business-to-business referral strategy that has a lot of merit and a lot of value. Here's why. If we know that people run in peer groups, one chiropractor talks to another chiropractor, one lawyer talks to another lawyer, one stay-at-home mom talks to another stay-at-home mom. We all run in circles, groups, or packs. I call them vertical markets. So what I want you to think about in your businesses is you get to know your customers. Is where do they work? What other professionals are they with? On the other hand, if they're a stay-at-home mom, what other stay-at-home moms do they know that are looking for a great product or maybe looking for part-time income? So you can run the referral training either direction for product application or if you want to build a business if someone's looking to do that. Okay? The picture. This is a great example of this strategy in real-world action. The gal on my left, her name is Michelle Comstock. She's president of the bank located in Western Michigan, and she is a very good connector. This picture was when I spoke for an association conference that she booked me to be at with all her peers throughout the state. Now, she's connected. She knows other bankers. I had no problem asking her afterwards, Michelle, thank you for bringing me in to speak to this Mid-Michigan Bankers Group. What about your bank? If I could be of value or help to your bank, I'd love an introduction. Now, you might think this is too easy. She's the bank president, okay? But she had to ask her board to bring me in, and a year later, this past April, they brought me in to speak. So there are natural, organic, very easy to find introductions right in front of us. Many times we don't stop to think or have a strategy. Again, that's why you're on this call. All right, so let's talk about specific now tactics. 3 proven ways, I call them, to get more referrals immediately. If you look at the slide here, there's a clock. In the image of the traditional clock, has numbers going from 1 to 12, clockwise. This clock is much different. I'm talking about if you're giving me your time and your attention, I want you to take 1 or 2 ideas off of this call pronto and use them not later, not after the 4th of July, not when you're not as busy. I want you to use them right now while the iron is hot to strike. So here we go. So number one, you ask for them. You're thinking, what? If you see the screen, I know this sounds simple, but stay with me. You have to constantly make it a habit. I mentioned it a couple slides ago. And then you've got to ask for referrals. It's timeless, it's proven, and it's easy to do. However, as you see on the screen here, I typed it right out there in black and white, or blue and white, I should say. Most people, A, they don't ask. Or what likely happens is they forget to. And if they even think about asking, I put the big or, here's number B, when they ask, they do it very weakly or they just wing it. An example, you meet someone, let's say over the 4th of July holiday, and they're talking about what you do, and you offer Monat to them and they purchase from you. A month from now, after the holiday, you follow up with them and they're raving about the product. You're on the phone with them. Okay, and you're talking about, hey, how was your 4th of July? The party was great. How's the Monat working for you? And you're all excited. You're like, hey, let's say your customer's name is Joe that you met at the 4th of July. You're on the phone now a month later. You're all excited. You're taking down the notes. Hey, Joe, I'll stay in touch with you. You hang up the phone. And maybe it dawns on you 5 minutes after you hang up the phone, you're like, oh, my gosh, I wonder if they know other people. I bet they do. And imagine a little caption bubble goes up in your head. And you're like, oh, my gosh, I never asked who they might know. Who can they take me to? This is not in the slides that you're seeing or you're hearing in the training. And I want you to write this down as additional bonus, what I call details and specifics. You have to have a plan because most of your customers know about 250 people. It's called the Rule 250. It was coined by Joe Girard, Guinness Book of World Records, best salesman of all time. Okay? For like 10 years, he was the best salesman of the auto industry in the world. Okay? That Rule 250 is your friend. You got to ask every day. And I'm going to share with you some clues or strategies that are going to pop up in front of you where like, oh my gosh, there's a big, big clue. I can ask for an introduction, which leads me to this slide. I want you to think, instead of asking for referrals all the time, to change one word in your vocabulary. It's a simple word, but it has a huge dramatic impact. Instead of asking for referrals, ask for introductions. Again, you may think, oh, that doesn't seem like much. Here's why I like it. And again, I will give credit where credit is always due. I learned this from Mark Victor Hansen. Him and Jack Hewitt wrote a book called, Les Hewitt, The Power of Focus. And in that book, there's a whole chapter on follow-up and referral marketing. This was one I gleaned from them that I would like to say I took credit for this, but I can't. But here's the deal. It works. As humans, if we're predictable, many times we tune out messages, language, or people that try to reach us. If you're a little different in the referral process and you ask for introductions, it's less threatening, number one. Number two, at our core, this is some marketing deep psychology here that I've studied with many great masters, is at our core, we're designed to help each other. Your customer, if asked properly and they feel like they know, like, and trust you, which they likely do if they're buying products from you, they are going to want to help you if you ask the right question with the right intent and the right language. Real world example here on the screen in this picture. This is one of my top clients at Purity Gas in Grand Rapids, Michigan. To the left is Scott Bird, and to the right is Doug Nyheist, the company president. They're holding a copy of a great book, but I'm a little biased. Jody, don't laugh. Okay? But this was taken about a month ago, and they're big fans. I train their sales team, full disclosure, every year the last 3 years. Doug on the right, their company president, has become what I call introduction or referral evangelista. I'm not afraid to ask him, hey, Doug, what are some folks, or who are some folks that you guys network with at Purity Gas? Are you guys a part of any trade groups? Here's what he told me a couple years ago. He walked up to me after I was done, and I asked him that question. He goes, Tony, I'm actually part of a peer group that meets every quarter. We fly around the country, other companies like ours, and we meet. I said, hey, would you mind making some introductions? He did. He's put me now on a plane to Birmingham, Alabama, into Spokane, Washington, for 2 people that he's referred me to. They're in his peer group that have become clients. Let me just say, I love those types of what I call referral evangelistas. I was not afraid to ask him, who else could he take me to, introduce me to? And I'm actually meeting with him again next week. And no act surprised, if he ever hears or sees this, he knows I'm going to ask him, hey, Doug, things are going great. We're a couple other folks in your peer group that you might introduce me to. And he'll probably, If he's in the room, say, hey, Tony, here's 2 or 3 names. Give him a follow-up. Once you have your customers, I wouldn't say trained, but a better term is comfortable with you asking and doing a great job, they will continue to reward you many times with introductions/referrals. All right, continuing. Let's break it down now. You've got to ask. So the first point about this strategy number 1 is you've got to keep asking. You have to have a plan, though. The next point is use the word introduction versus referral. Try that out. Do this daily in your online marketing, your offline marketing. I'm talking about your follow-up efforts, your phone calls, your emails, your Facebook messages, your text. You know, all of these strategies work online and offline. Keep them updated during the process. When you get a referral, this is something that's often never taught, but it has won me a lot of business, a lot of goodwill from my clients, is I will update someone during the process on a follow-up that they gave me, or excuse me, on a referral they gave me that I'm following up with still. And even when I don't get a customer, maybe it's for a speaking opportunity, I will obviously call and thank my client and say, hey, they went with another speaker or they didn't have a need, but you know what, Joe, I appreciate it very much. I want to get back to you and let you know that they were great to talk to, and I really appreciate that introduction. They are floored. They're like, whoa, you actually tracked it. You called to thank me again, and you're keeping me updated. What is going on? That is very hard to find. It's not to boast, but I said something to a lot of clients. I said this in other trainings, is write this down, please. The fortune is in the follow-up. See, that's the beauty of direct selling. You're very good at the customized personal service, which is great follow-up. And again, I win lots of business because I work referrals every day. Those introductions I get often, and I stay in touch and I follow up as best I can. And I also let the people know that referred me to them that I'm staying in touch with that prospect/referral. Okay. In addition, the last point here about number 1 asking for introductions and referrals is you want to tap into their circles of influence. Be specific. You know, I mentioned earlier the example of the chiropractor. The more specific you can get, and again, when I have more time, I can actually give audiences and groups an actual script of how to do this, but I gave you a little bit of a rundown on that 2 slides ago where I talked about the chiropractor. If you ask for specific introductions about, hey, who in your mom's group, or who's someone that you really respect on the PTA board that might want to know about Monat? If they are on the PTA board, they probably know a couple people. But the more specific you get, the better the possible referral outcome. Let me be very clear. This does not work 100% of the time. However, if you're asking every day and you're getting very specific and you're following these steps, there is a high likelihood you will get referrals/introductions. All right, continuing. The 3 best times to ask for a referral. Here's the 3 quick ones. Number 1, when you get a compliment from a customer. They're literally saying, hey, I like you a lot. You've improved my life, my situation. I feel great. Let's say, for example, their hair looks better and they're getting compliments, and now they're telling you about this. They're literally walking you through the referral door and saying, okay, I'm right to listen to whatever you want to say to me. That's not a setup. That's not disingenuous. This is the right moment to be thinking, oh my goodness, who else can they take me to? Number 2, I'm a little bit unconventional about this number 2 point about asking for referrals. I think right up front, you want to set the expectation that, look, if I do a good job of following up with you, if you believe in my product or service, I'm going to come back to you when we talk next and ask for some introductions of maybe some folks that might be interested in what I offer that you might know. Is that okay? If you position it that way up front, you're not being pushy. You're letting them know that you are going to follow up. So you're setting an expectation. And the second expectation is that when I follow up with you, if things are going well, I'm going to ask for some people you might know to introduce me to. That tip alone right there, it's really, to me, a game changer. I know that term is used a lot, but then your customers know that your business is built on great follow-up and referrals. Okay? I'm not going to go through the example in respect to time. Maybe we could do that at a future point, Jody. But I want to move into number 3. When you help someone out in a pinch and or you deliver exceptional customer service. Again, we talked about this in the beginning of the call, the training today. But anytime someone says, wow, you know, the products came in, I gave them to a family member that was here on vacation or over the holiday, and they loved it, or they give Monat as a gift to someone, and you help them out with a rush order, or you bring it to their home. that type of service is hard to find in today's digital Amazon point-and-click world. Let me repeat that. That type of service is hard to find. So you should be rewarded when the customer is raving about you in the service that you've done, to think in your mind, who else can they take me to? Now, if you're hearing me, you're like, wow, Tony's very repetitive. Here's the deal. Repetition is the mother of all skill. Okay? Continuing. Second referral strategy. Track your leads and reward the behavior. I have a quote here below, and I'll explain the visual. Remember, a referral is so valuable as it's someone's reputation on the line. If you're getting referrals now without using some of these strategies, you are in a very good position, my friend, listening to the call. You're already exhibiting many of these things. If you're not getting a lot of referrals, or maybe you're new to the business, here's what I want you to think about. To me, you've got to track every referral. I call it a lead. And I'm a big fan that when you track it, you reward people for their time and for thinking of you. Now, I'm not going to give you 101 ways to reward people, but let me give you something to write down that you should always ingrain in your mind or your organization or your team. Anytime you get an inquiry about Monat, because this is who this call is for, we're serving Monat today, okay, is they send you an email asking about the product, or they call you, or they instant message you. You always ask this first. How did you hear about me? This is something that I'm amazed. Jody, I know you're moderating the call with me, and whoever's listening right now, people forget to ask this. But if you can't track who gave you the referral, you can't reward and thank the behavior. Because what we're trying to do is appreciate those that are sending us those introductions and referrals, and let them know that we got it and that we really value that. They're doing free marketing for us. So let me give you a quick list of my favorite ways to thank people. Again, this is like a little marketing thank you buffet. You pick and choose. I bet some of you are going, oh, I use these. Or you might go, hey, I might try that. Maybe that's one of your takeaways from the call. Handwritten thank you notes. My favorite way to thank people. I send handwritten thank you notes every week. I just, ironically, Jody, sent out 5 signed books to people right this morning. I'm always doing those little details because the devil is in the details, particularly when it comes to marketing and follow-up. Remember I said the fortune's in the follow-up. This works all the time. Another great idea is recognize your customers or your referral partners on social media. Okay? In respect to time, look around and see who's doing it. Your leaders, Jody, Tony, many of you on the call, share what you're doing online with your groups and feature your best customers. Okay? I just alluded to a minute ago, I send books. It doesn't have to be my book. You can send a book that, you know, maybe it's Raving Fans, or maybe it's a chicken soup book. Maybe it's a book that they're interested based on their interest that you find out on social media. If you're friends with them, send them their favorite books. A CD, it could be a postcard. Something that lets them know that you actually were listening, you want to thank them, and that you care. Magazine subscriptions. I mean, if you have kids like I got 4 of them, they're always selling something. There's a point there. Maybe that's a future call, Jody. But the kids are always doing fundraisers. Get a magazine subscription, help out the school, and give a thank you gift to your best client or referral partner. Send them a picture. I know this is old school. It's probably easier to post it online or text them a picture with you and the person they referred you to. I love doing this. I'll take pictures with, for example, I mentioned Doug Nyheis earlier. When I was in Birmingham, Alabama, I took a picture of the client he referred me to and texted to him and said, hey, Doug, guess where I'm at? I'm in Birmingham with Bill. He responded back. He was cracking up. Clients love that stuff. Or you take a person out to a ball game, a concert, or event to really get to know them better, to break bread with them, and really establish a relationship, not just a transaction. Let me repeat that. The whole goal of all this training, besides the referral strategies, is we want to be building long-term relationships with people, not just orders or transactions. All right, continuing. Sage advice from a legend, Mary Kay Ash. If I could have met this woman, interviewed her, I would be doing cartwheels. She passed many years ago, but her legend lives on. Here's one of her great quotes. Everyone wants to be appreciated. So if you appreciate someone, don't keep it a secret. Again, that's another reinforcement point that this call, there's many things going on, but these conditions, when they exist, produce even more referrals. All right, third and final strategy is network, network, network. The truth is this. I put below this picture. when you show up consistently and on time, good things happen. And I know many of you are master networkers. Let me give you kind of a quick local then a regional way to look at your networking efforts. Chambers of Commerce groups, there's small business groups, there are B&I chapters, there's women in business groups, there's Christian men business owner groups. Any type of business networking group you can imagine, I bet it's within 30 miles of you. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to get out there and show up. Because when you do that consistently and you get more refined and you're talking about the service and you're sharing testimonials, you will draw business. I'm amazed that more people don't strategically network at least 3 to 5 hours a week. Now, some of you are going, whoa, Tony, I'm doing this part-time. I don't have that much time. Let me scale it back. Maybe it's 1 meeting a week. You go to a B&I meeting or a Chamber of Commerce small business group. But that network can expose you to so many great people that are, number one, potential clients. You know this. They're great potential Monat customers. And two, if they become raving fans because of the great service you give, they'll start referring you outside the group to people that you might not otherwise reach. Again, first or second slide I mentioned today, cold calling is horrible. This, again, networking will save you a ton of time. All right, I put a little humorous slide here, and when you're out networking, I think, Jody, you mentioned to me is the towing, you have different scripts that you use or introductions, and people ask you, what do you do? But I'm a little bit of a joker, so when I talk to business groups or different industries, I always have this little pin. This is an actual button that you can put on your lapel when you go to a networking event. And Jody, I kid you not, I've had people buy these and wear them and report back to me.
It's awesome.
But, so, well, thank you. And it just says, hi, I can't remember your name either. Because let's face it, we're at different levels of skill and comfort on this call, wherever you're listening throughout the world. It's very intimidating the first times you go to a networking event. Like, I don't know anybody, and they all look the same, and thank goodness they have name badges. And if they don't have name badges, oh no. So the challenge is, a little humor there, you can risk being boring when someone asks you the proverbial, what do you do? Or you can come up with a great, I call it 15 to 30-second commercial about what you do. Again, not to conflict with the training you're getting here at Monat, maybe it's something shorter, but this is where, follow what your successful leaders are training you on. Because this training that you're getting from not only me, but your leaders within Monat, when you fuse them together, you have that much more credibility and additional ways to build your business. All right, let's wrap up here. Some additional resources of value. I do have the new book. Jody, thank you for the plug in the beginning there. But if you're interested in that, simply check out the page, mindcapturebook.com, and we'll walk you through. So if you're interested, there's the first resource. If you'd like some more information about what I do, and you say, hey, maybe not a book right now, I want to offer something of value that you don't have to pay for. It's a one sheet that I put together called the 10 Mind Capture Marketing Commandments. A lot of people request this, and it's very simple. There's my email. It's tony@mindcapturegroup.com. Again, if you're not seeing the screen, you just send an email to tony@mindcapturegroup.com. In the subject line, if you just put Monat, call, or one sheet, or even Monat bonus, I'll send that to you right away from our team. And Jody, I made a promise to you and Tony, I call her T1, that I would not email you into oblivion. I will not do that. So you can get that, my thank you, and a gift to you of additional value for being on the call. So, Jody, that was a rapid-fire 34 minutes, my friend.
That was awesome. And I have to say, we were talking about this earlier, and Tony, too, we were chatting at some of the things, and I've been in direct selling for 10 years, and to hear the switch from using referral to who could you introduce me to, I actually used that last night with someone who is very influential in a different country, and it worked exactly like you said, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Awesome.
And I was so excited just to immediately go and apply that, just talking with you. But what a difference when you just change the word referral to introduce. And the other big takeaway for me is that I've never done, and shame on me, is plug people in who referred me to someone into the process and a thank you of where they're at. Even if the person didn't, sometimes if someone does, move forward, or they purchase, or they do something, but even if it's not the right fit or time, still go back and just, let them know in that follow-up. And I really appreciate just, even being in here for 10 years to take some really like eye-opening takeaways. So I appreciate that. And I know everyone that's listening, everyone that will listen in the future is going to find a couple nuggets. And I challenge people too. 3 months from now, come back and listen to it again, and you'll probably pick up 1 or 2 other nuggets you didn't see the first time.
Well, and Jody, number one, you are welcome, and two, I'm glad you implemented right away. We had the luxury, you and I of talking before this call a couple of times, as well as with Tony, one of your key leaders in the company. So if anything, the challenge might be I want to issue to everyone right now is go back right now in real time if you're still on the call and circle 1 or 2 things you can use right away. And Jody, you lead from the front. You went and did it last night. So if anything, these are not super complex things. It's just a matter of being aware that, hey, we've got to look at it differently and then try a couple of them. So.
And it worked, and that one was I asked someone for an introduction, and then I asked the person that they introduced me to for an introduction, and it worked both times.
There you go.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tony, and thank you everyone for being on this call. Thank you for taking a little time out of your day to, build you, work on yourself as we all get better and better every day. So, Tony, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, everyone. We appreciate it.
Take care. Bye-bye.